Hello. Thank you for joining me today. Glad you are here. I'm Jim, and Michelle's not here. Together we are a Teague of your own. Welcome to another Motivational Monday. Let's get motivated. Woohoo! Not quite the same pizzazz as when you have multiple people saying it, but still fun. Still fun. So today, my friends, I'm going to be talking about a topic that is very important these days, especially in the workplace. And it's a topic on diversity. I know you're all going, diversity? You're the person to talk about things like diversity and equity? Jim, dude, really? Yes, I am. I know a lot about it, especially with my background, having grown up military. I had to learn to communicate and connect with many different kinds of people across a broad spectrum of humankind. And people forget that when it comes to diversity, there's a lot of factors that we can be diverse on. It's not just the typical ones that people think of, like race, ethnicity, or gender. But you've also got things like intelligence level, skills and abilities, age, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And one that gets overlooked a lot, especially in areas like academia, is diversity in thought. And that's the place where we really should have diversity of thinking, and in most cases we don't. But that's not what I'm talking about today. Today, I'm going to focus on age, generations. Why is this an important topic? Well, we're now at a point where we have count them, 5 generations all together in the workplace. Now, it's not every workplace, but there are many where you've got the traditionals. That's that World War II group, the pre-baby boomers. Many of them have retired. A lot of them have passed away, but there are still some in the workforce. These are the folks that they're never going to retire because they know that once they retire, well, there's really only one big event left in your life. And they're going to keep right on trucking. Michelle and I have that same plan. We have no intentions of ever stopping because we don't know what we would do if we ever did. You've got the baby boomers, which the boomers were the dominant force in the country. That's not the case anymore. You've got Gen X, which is rising to prominence. You've got the Millennials. And now we have Gen Z. We're just starting to get the Gen Zers into the workforce. A lot of them are in college. A lot of them are still in school, pre-college. But they are there. They're starting to come. And what's interesting, why this topic is relevant for what we do, is because of the differences in the styles of communicating, their styles of work, their sense of responsibility, what they're after in life. Okay? They are very different. And so one of the things that we have to be aware of, particularly the older generations, okay, I'm really putting my generation on the hook in this discussion because I just fall into the baby boomer category. I just fit right in at the tail end of it. I don't feel like I have a whole lot in common with the baby boomers at this point. I feel closer to Gen X. Michelle was a Gen Xer. And I've always felt that way. But I am indeed part of the baby boom generation. And the boomers, they got used to doing things a certain way. They got used to the workplace being a certain way. And it really derived from the traditionals, but evolved from that. And it's this idea that you show up, you do your job. Having an authoritarian style of leadership was okay. You waited your turn, you worked your way up the ladder, You knew that you had to work. And what most of us tried to do was find something that hopefully we really enjoyed, but that we could at least reasonably tolerate, and then try to make a career out of that. Okay. The newer generations, they want more of that work-life balance. They are not necessarily all about work, 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 work. They know they have to. They know that they're going to have to do so to pay bills, but they also realize that there's other opportunities out there. You know, the traditional work model of you go to work for a company, you stay there for 40 or 50 years, and then you retire. That model's gone. It is gone. It will be rare that you will have people in the current generations coming up, the millennials and the Gen Zers, that will stay at a job for 50 years. In fact, for many of them, they now will take a job, stay there for maybe a year or two, and then move on to another one. Sometimes they don't even wait a year or two. And part of that is because of the circumstances right now. There are so many jobs available. There's so much opportunity that if they find that they don't enjoy or can't tolerate their situation in a particular job, they'll just quit and go find another one. And employers aren't holding it against them. I remember when I was young, one of the things that we were told is when you get that first job, you need to be there at least 2 years, if not more. If you leave a job after a year or two and you go take another job, the second job, you better be willing to stay there for a while, because if you do that a couple of times, all of a sudden you get a reputation as a job hopper. Okay. It's interesting. We were doing some training this past week and that term came up, job hopper. It's not a stigma anymore. And it's because employers understand that sometimes you've got to move. Sometimes it's for the pay and compensation. With prices going up so fast, people need more money. It's hard to survive. And this new generation, they're not hesitant. These millennials and the Gen Zers, they're not hesitant about making that move. Okay. But most of the time when they make that move, it's not because of the pay. It's not because of the compensation. Sometimes it's not even because of the lack of work-life balance. Quite often, it's because their leaders don't treat them very well. And those folks, well, we refer to them as managers. Okay. There is a difference between a manager and a leader. The manager gets put into a position generally because of their technical ability. Sometimes they're the best person in the department, so they make them the manager. They know nothing about leading. They know about their job. And they're just not very good at it. Okay. Because the big difference between managers is managers manage tasks. Leaders lead people. And that's, a big thing in the workplace right now is knowing how to lead your people. Big difference. Because again, leaders, they are there to serve their people, to serve their team, as opposed to managers who tend to think that their team is there to serve them. Managers think the team is there to make them look good. Leaders realize that they are there to make their team look good. And by making your team look good, guess what? They're going to make you look good. It's that mentality of servant leadership. And again, that has been a big shift for the boomers and even some of the Gen Xers who are in leadership or management roles in the workplace. And so we're having to make that adjustment in the mindset, because again, this younger generation, they want leaders. They don't care what you know until they know that you care. And that's the big difference. Leaders care about their people. Also means that as a leader, you've got to adapt to their style of communicating. They don't communicate the way that we do. Now, I've adapted to their preference of communication. I actually enjoy it. I like communicating through text. It's quick. Got short text. You can get a lot of information in a hurry. I like email, not as much as texting, amazingly enough. Okay. But I still don't have a problem picking up the phone and calling. The younger generation, They're not crazy about phone calls. They're not crazy about emails. They'll do them, but they like communicating through text. Again, they like that quick communication. So it's up to us as the leaders to adapt to them, not necessarily to expect them to adapt to us. And keep in mind, again, the boomers, we're no longer the dominant force in this country. Okay. As a matter of fact, at this point, the population mix between the four main generations, the traditionals, they're down to less than 20 million of them left. They're dying off. But the other four generations, we're pretty close to the same numbers for all four generations, with, of course, the boomers starting their decline, because the older boomers, you think about it, they're what now, 75, 76 years old, something like that. Okay. They're starting to die off. So the baby boomer generation is going to wane in influence. Okay. It's going to be those millennials, because Gen Xers are somewhere in the middle, but we're all pretty even at this point. So we have to learn to work particularly with these other three generations as boomers, and likewise with the other generations. You've got to learn how to work with the folks who came before you, and in some cases came after you. Okay. We've all got to work together. Key thing is understand that by having that mix, you're going to get different viewpoints. You're going to get different outlooks. Sometimes it means you get some different ideas. And the amazing things about these young people is they're smart. They are smart. They can come up with some ideas that'll blow your mind if you will let them, if you will foster that, if you will have an inclusive workplace. But it means having that mutual respect for everybody and understanding that just because somebody falls in the category of being in one of these generations, don't stereotype them. Okay. Treat each person as an individual. To me, that's the whole key to the equity and diversity discussion to begin with. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, he dreamed of a day when people would no longer be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. We are a long way from that ideal, and it's a shame. Sometimes it feels like we're moving backwards away from that. But Dr. King was right. That's what we need to do. Don't stereotype people. Show respect and caring for each other. Dare I say it, show love for each other. And by doing that, you're going to be able to create a happy and harmonious workplace, which will contribute to a happier and more harmonious world. Well, that's all I've got to say today. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, you've only got one life. Why not make it great? Bye, everyone.